Welcome back to the show, everybody. Check out these headlines. We got Jeremy Allaire and USDC, and we've got the Digital Dollar Project warning the U.S., and we got Brad Garlinghouse and all the highlights from World Economic Forum Davos. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow us on TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter for exclusive content. Right now, just over $1 trillion market cap for cryptocurrencies. Good morning. We're up 1.6%. Bitcoin now 21,000, slightly above. Ethereum 1,500, smack dab in the middle. Tether market cap is 66.6 billion, they're saying. XRP is 39 cents. We're up 4.9% on the 7-day and 1.5% the 24-hour. Ladies and gentlemen, you haven't done it. My favorite exchange. It's Uphold. It's anything to anything. If you want to know what the future looks like, I think Uphold's a great place to look. Why Uphold is different? Because it is anything to anything. They are transparent. It is the home for altcoins, and they have staking for up to 30 assets. HBAR recently became one of those as well. Check it out. Click the link. Get the best deal for yourself. And you can anything to link to, ladies and gentlemen. Don't mess around. PolySign's on the board, Uphold itself is on the board, Link2's on the board, Ripple's on the board, and all these incredible companies. If you're accredited, get in there. Look, it doesn't last long. Look, this just fully subscribed. And they just got some of this Ripple back. One of these days, it's going to be the last time. Don't get caught. Tell them I said to come on in. Click the link for Link2. Oh, boy. I forgot to tell you, I got Jamie Dimon this morning for you, too. And, boy, is he pissed off when he's asked about Bitcoin. And listen, you know, there is this thing, Talking Your Book, where people who people of note that have weight in the media, their words mean things. They sometimes will say the opposite so they can continue to accumulate something, talking something down, and then purchasing what they're talking down and knowing that they could affect the price by 20, 30, 40% sometimes, right? Well, in this particular instance, I can't believe it. I was talking to Big Skinny about this. We both felt like I actually think Jamie's not lying here. So you tell me what you think. Take a listen.
What we're talking about, we pretty much always have some crypto conversation with you. I'm just curious because I don't think we've talked to you since.
I think all that's been a waste of time, and why you guys waste any breath on it is totally beyond me.
Because you just think the whole thing just is
going to zero?
Going to zero and it's fake?
Bitcoin itself is a hyped up fraud. It's a pet rock.
You're back to that?
Yeah,
really?
Of course, yeah.
So what do you make then of BlackRock and other firms that are investing in infrastructure?
No, that's different. Blockchain is a technology ledger system that we use to move information. We've used it to do overnight repo, intraday repo. We've used it to move money.
Right.
So that is a ledger. That's a technology ledger type of thing that we think will be deployable. Remember, we've been talking about that for 12 years too, and very little's been done.
There's some tokens that I agree with you on, but Bitcoin's based on a distributed ledger. Yeah, it has all the characteristics of a store of value. It's immutable. It's scarce.
Totally untrue. It's
21 million.
Well, yeah, really. How do you know it's going to stop at 21 million?
Because
I've mentioned this to people
Satoshi.
Too. Everyone says that. Well, maybe it's going to get to 21 million, and Satoshi's picture is going to come up and laugh at you all and say, no.
But there isn't a picture.
And by then, Satoshi will have taken out billions of dollars.
What was your reaction to the failure of FTX and all of that? You've seen lots of failures over the years of different things that have happened on Wall Street and the world of finance.
I'm not surprised at all.
And
I called it a decentralized Ponzi scheme. The hype around this thing has been extraordinary.
The underlying asset.
But you have a lot of clients who are involved.
Yeah. You guys you've all seen the analysis on Tether and the analysis on all these things and the lack of disclosures, and it's outrageous. The regulators should have stopped this a long time ago. People have lost billions of dollars. You know, some are, if you look at it as lower income people, it's in some cases,
Jamie, there's a difference between saying FTX is a decentralized Ponzi scheme and saying that crypto itself is a Ponzi scheme. That's like, Madoff created options.
Crypto itself that doesn't do anything is a pet rock. You're happy to
Bitcoin.
You can own it all you want.
I'm just talking. There's a lot. It's billions of dollars.
I don't care about Bitcoin, so we should drop the subject.
All right. Well, let me ask.
Wow. Look, there's a couple things here I just quickly want to touch on. One, Bitcoin Ponzi scheme, pet rock, right? Blockchain technology, distributed ledger technology. Boy, he sits up straight and he goes, now that's something we can use. You know, then he sneaks in ever so gently Tether into the conversation. I don't know if you caught that as well. So that leads us into what we're going to talk to in just 1 second here, which is Jeremy Allaire, CEO of Circle, weighs in on where the U.S. stablecoin regulation may go this year and why a decade-old company has been successful. Let's take a look at this very quickly, because then we got the Digital Dollar Project warning the United States. Jeremy Allaire said USDC is a prime example of how stablecoin is growing. Lawmakers in the U.S. and abroad are becoming aware of the significant size and business that stablecoins can provide. He predicted that this year, stablecoin issuers are going to be normalized in almost every major market. Wow. What's happening is that the members of Congress are realizing that they better get even more educated about stablecoins, Allaire said. This is a live policy issue. This is not a put your head in the sand and hope it goes away issue. A stablecoin is a type of cryptocurrency whose value is pegged to another asset class such as fiat currency or gold to stabilize its price. What's next? Jeremy Allaire says is that the lawmakers may take a firmer position on stablecoin in different places around the world. Oh, this is getting interesting. Do tell, Jeremy. Adding that the G20 countries and the U.S. are leading those regulatory efforts. Boston, Massachusetts tech firm, founded in 2013, continues to evolve as crypto's ecosystem develops and grows, Jeremy Allaire said. He said his company has been around for the last decade because it walks through the front door with regulators and aims to be upfront with them. Oh, it sounds like Jeremy knows something. And I'll tell you something, it's lining up a lot with the Digital Dollar Project, too. I'm seeing alignment here. Digital Dollar Project warns the United States. It says this in the DDP, a nonprofit organization advocating for U.S. CBDC, said the U.S. should set the regulatory framework independent of a decision to deploy a U.S. CBDC. See, this is something we talked about too. Stablecoin legislation comes first. It's a Band-Aid. They can take their time on the CBDC, which we believe and hope, I certainly hope, it's wholesale and back end. I don't want no direct Fed wallet. More than 100 jurisdictions around the world are researching or developing CBDCs, but the U.S. remains cautious on the merits of CBDCs. In the coming CBDC future, the U.S. should actively lead global discussions on governance, interoperability, security, privacy, scalability standards, rather than reacting to foreign CBDC decisions. Well said. DDP laid out a series of warnings about the United States' cautious approach, calling it conspicuous absence and unsustainable position. Such a defensive posture by the U.S. threatens to impact its domestic economy if foreign nations issue their own CBDCs that become widely adopted as the de facto standards for international wholesale and retail payments, the paper warned. Look, I think this all comes back to exactly what we've talked about with Ripple. When Brad Garlinghouse has said himself, we are operating as if we've already lost the case. That's why 95% of the adoption of customers they have is on the other side of the world and not in the United States. There comes a point of leverage, a tipping point that says, hey, if you don't get out here and play along, it's not going to matter what you say happens in your yard. Because the world's bigger than your backyard, whether you're the largest economy, U.S. or not. That's what we're talking about here. And now we're hearing it from Jeremy Allaire. We're hearing it from Digital Dollar Project. And Jeremy Allaire is very confident that the world is going to come clean with stablecoin legislation, which I believe will kick the door open for trillions of dollars to move into this space, not financial advice. Now, here we go right here. This is a highlight reel. Shout out to digital asset investor of everything that you need to hear from Brad Garlinghouse from being on that panel, and boy, I tell you, I don't know if it's just me, but it seemed like Stacey Marie Ishmael was just short, rude. I don't even know how to say it towards Brad Garlinghouse. They just weren't on the same. I don't know what's going on, but I thought Brad navigated the panel in an amazing manner, as always. Stays pro, keeps it classy, and take a listen. This is really great.
It's exciting. I feel a obligation to advocate for. There are these new technologies that we can use for the betterment of economic value to our citizens, to our businesses, even to central banks. And I think to the extent we can focus on, hey, these are new technologies that can be used in that way, like the earliest days of the internet, can these technologies be used in illicit ways? Yes, and certainly we saw the early days of the internet and people called for bans of the internet.
And to be clear, the current days of the internet as well.
Oh, yeah, I guess, yeah. Well, although there was a much louder, higher decibel level call in maybe the 90s when people were, I think, more intimidated by how these technologies are being used. And I think we're seeing that play out in the world of blockchain as well. I thought it was interesting you described the UAE regulatory as light touch.
Said it was described as light touch.
Oh, described as light touch, all right. I actually give huge credit to the UAE.
Do you have a VARA license?
No, we do not. Although we might, I don't know the exact answer to that, but we do not currently. The point I would make, though, is...
You do not.
Thank you. The point I would make, though, is the UAE has done the work to codify what the regulations are. I think the challenge, and we discussed this before we got up here, I think the vast majority of players in the crypto space want to be good actors. But I think we have to be clear about what that means. And I think one of the challenges is, and I very much agreed with something the commissioner said, we talk about regulating crypto. I think we should, that's an abstract thing to say from my point of view. We need to regulate the activity. What is it that we're doing? So Ripple is in the business around cross-border payments. Our customers are banks. Our customers are regulated institutions. You can't have a non-KYC, know your customer transaction, et cetera. There are lots of regulations around payments, like know your customer, like AML, anti-money laundering, like OFAC compliance in the United States, et cetera, anti-terrorism finance. So I think when we say crypto's not regulated, I hear that and I think, I don't know what that means. Like Ripple's a very regulated company in lots of different jurisdictions, not yet in UAE perhaps, although I don't know the exact status in UAE. The point, as much as anything, I think it's a misnomer to describe crypto as an unregulated business. In the U.S., you have in the SEC someone at the chair saying it's the Wild West. Look, there are clearly examples where that's true, but there are a lot of people solving real problems for real customers and taking the air and the froth out of the hype and speculative bubble that really was true in crypto, I think is really healthy.
I think one of the challenges here is there are actually very few people describing crypto as an unregulated business. What they're saying is that it is insufficiently regulated and that there are certain types of activities, separate out the obvious and egregious fraud, scams, and grift. But there are certain types of activities that are either being presented to customers as potentially safer than they are, or the promise of guaranteed returns when there are no such thing. Or in the US, for instance, many investors in certain of these crypto companies, several of which have now gone bankrupt, were under the impression that their deposits were insured by the FDIC, which is that up to $250,000 of whatever the deposits were would be protected. And that was an impression that was in a lot of ways encouraged by the marketing and the advertising of certain types of these entities.
But we have laws about that, right? And now, well, frankly, I think instead of going after Kim Kardashian for promoting
that case was dismissed.
But I didn't actually know that. I think.
And to be clear, I feel like that's where she really starts being a smartass. But the truth is here, to be honest, is that the case was dismissed after she paid $1 million. So it wasn't like it was just dropped and everybody went home. I actually went and looked it up. So
the things you're describing, and even we talked to again backstage, like if there's fraud, we have laws about that in major jurisdictions. I guess my comment and reaction there is only what I've read. I saw this week that the Three Arrows Capital guys are raising a distressed crypto debt fund. That made me scratch my head a little bit. Look, again, I think about this as analogous to, when a hedge fund blows up, Bernie Madoff. We should look at, okay, what went wrong there? Why didn't we see that coming? I think what happened with FTX is a very, very similar and very analogous to what happened with Madoff.
Well, Sam Bankman-Fried has denied all allegations.
I know, sorry, yes, allegedly. I know nothing proprietary of consequence here. I think it's important that we are regulated, for sure. The point that I was making is I think the activity is what typically has been regulated. Regulating technologies is a little bit more complicated. Understanding how a technology is being used to touch a business, to touch a consumer, to touch fill in blank, we should absolutely have laws around that, and we should protect consumers. I'm actually intrigued by your thought around kind of the self-policing mechanisms. And as you said it, I was thinking about, how could we do a better job of that? And frankly, one of the things that came to my mind is I think, several people in the hedge fund industry had reported Madoff time and time again to the SEC, and for whatever reason, they didn't investigate. I do think, we do work with law enforcement at Ripple, and we do file suspicious activity reports. And, again, we're only working with regulated endpoints, so we're somewhat unique. And I will say, I agree with you that the origins of crypto were absolutely anti-government, anti-bank. The origins of these technologies and how these technologies can be used can be very, very different. And as time goes by, I think we spend less time talking about Mt. Gox and Silk Road and more time talking about these are real enterprise scaled use cases where it's not an experiment. You're talking about billions and billions of dollars going through Ripple's technology platform. Don.
Don Tapscott. I chair the Blockchain Research Institute. And my question is for Brad, but anyone else. Why do we misunderstand what crypto is? In a lot of these conversations, we assume it's some kind of security, it's a new asset class. But we're digitizing, tokenizing all assets. So if you understand that, you'll understand that there are a dozen different types, of which what you're talking about is one. We're tokenizing carbon credits. Should we regulate that? We're tokenizing art. Should we regulate that? There are protocol tokens that enable people in a decentralized community to communicate with each other and to make decisions.
So if I understand the question, it's if I may rephrase the question, there is often a conflation of crypto equals everything that can be defined as, stable coins versus non-backed assets, or protocol tokens, or the tokenization of other forms of financial assets. What, from a regulatory perspective, are the next steps here, given that when we talk about an asset class, an industry, or an ecosystem, it's actually multiple, or can be perceived as multiple different asset classes?
Well, I mean, Don pointed the question to me. I'll just say, I think one of the hardest parts for the people up here doing their jobs and all the people in the respective regulatory bodies is actually understanding new technologies at a degree of detail that, to Don's point, it's very difficult to paint all of crypto with one broad brush. You have represented here, one of the leading stable coins in Circle, Chainalysis, Michael's company, these are very successful, very robust companies doing very interesting things in a very regulated way. And I think the challenge for us, maybe that group of people, is there's so much FUD. There's so much misinformation.
Fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You got them all. I think it makes it very difficult. And I actually think we, the industry, have done ourselves a disservice by being exceptionally tribal, and kind of the infighting within crypto has actually made it even harder to
the chair's point
to understand the different pieces and parts. And look, that's why I'm here. That's why I come to Davos. That's why I'm meeting with regulators, because I want to partner and say, here's how Ripple approaches this, here's how we see the industry. And I will say, I've found an amazingly receptive audience here in Davos.
If I may, just the two questions, because the first one is, do not worry, it is not all in my head, but I have plenty of experts and they do know this area very well. We don't sit in a room, we listen to industry and we reach out.
Discipline back. The flip side to that is if we do start to normalize rates again, or rates start to go down, do you expect that the level of enthusiasm, shall we say, that we saw from 2020 to 2022 could potentially return? Or are there other factors at play that may be depressing some of the excitement here?
It's Is that a crypto question or a Tesla stock question?
It is a crypto question. I have no opinions on Elon Musk.
I'm only asking that question. I think we have appropriately talked about there was obviously a significant decline in the value of the crypto asset market overall. If you just, about $2 trillion of value went out. If you just look at Tesla, Facebook, and Amazon, $2 trillion went out last year. No one's saying we shouldn't invest in Tesla, Amazon.
Actually, some analysts are definitely saying not to invest in Tesla, Facebook, and Amazon.
And look, yeah, that's fair. But I don't think we're trying to regulate in saying that we shouldn't let people invest in Tesla. I agree that the consumer protection has to be paramount, and it has to start. Some of the times I hear things, I'm like, well, wait a minute, $2 trillion came out of the crypto market, but a whole lot more than that came out of.
The thing is, the overall crypto market had a maximum capitalization of $3 trillion, so it represents a much larger percentage of the whole.
That's why I use Tesla stock, because Tesla stock was down the same amount as the crypto market.
Well, thank you, everybody. We hope you.
I tell you, that's where Brad's earning the money right there, right? Because he stayed extremely professional, extremely classy. I felt like, he was up against it, to be honest, through the entire conference and that panel, if you watched it. And he just did an amazing job navigating such a difficult personality, being so, I just say difficult's the word. But nevertheless, that's the guy you got to be if you want to take this thing where you want it to go. And that's Ripple and XRP, mass adoption, global domination. I'm here for it. Not everybody is. But you know what? Hero or zero, that's what I'm here for. And I'm not leaving till we see how it pans out. And I tell you something, I want to remind everybody of the countdown. If Jim Filan's prediction that the case will end on or before March 2023, we are now inside of 2 months. Pretty exciting stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Pretty exciting stuff. That's going to do it for me. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. I'll catch all of you on the next one.